story was extremely impactful and one of the few investigative stories that made it to, the box office, as they say, are about the price that the journalists had to pay. And can we have newsrooms that are more conscious of that and paid for that, and protects the journalist as much as 24 to Suicide Prevention Day. And I tried when the story kills the story can do as much as kill the storyteller, and the pressure of getting stories done, affects the storyteller. We have resource persons that I have very high regard for. Mr. Dayayeto is somebody who is also very passionate about this cause and who runs and leads a newsroom, not just as the editor, but as the founder and the publisher, and puts as much as possible, infrastructure in place to support journalists. Esther Adekoya was a classmate at Pan Atlantic University, and she's also equally passionate about this course. And I just want to join us to make it reflective. We'll not solve all the problems with this one training, but we want to increase awareness. We want to increase intentionality. We want you to be able, as a journalist, to step back and make an analysis and understand what the story is doing to you, and take precautions where you can, prevent when you can, and also go for therapy when you can. Colleagues will, after now, share a link. We do have support for mental health therapy. WSIJ pays so that you can see a counselor and speak to somebody about the issues that you're going through, and it is confidential. They tell us who came so that we pay the bill and how many sessions you had, but we do not know the details of what you discussed. We are all just working together along with many other collaborators that have similar interventions, but because SLAP is another tension that journalists have and are increasingly more. We just want to join others to support, the ecosystem and the minds and the individuals that make the great stories that we read happen. So have a good training, have a good session. I'm confident that you will learn a lot. These are very seasoned people that we have brought your way. Please take the notes and please be intentional, not just for yourself, but to also share this with other colleagues, so that together we make the space and this work better. I see Francis, I don't know if it's Juliana Francis that is on the call. I'm sure that she also has, experiences to share as an editor who has covered, the crime beat for over 20 years. So have a good time and let us ensure that we learn and we also share what we learn with colleagues. Thank you so much. Let me take the opportunity, since I will be coming back, to thank the team at WSIJ for, running around to miss fun. Thank you so much and have a great session. I have last thought, I have another training where I'm facilitating, when I'm acting as resource person. So if I disappear sometime in the day, it is because I also have to get to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ma. We really appreciate that. Thank you for the wonderful opening remarks. Okay. Thank you for sharing that, Ma. So before we dive in fully into this conversation, we want to quickly do a mood check. I believe we are excited about this very workshop. I want to believe that. So without wasting much of our time, we want to know how you feel as you join today's session. Can respond with an emoji. Can respond. Then, okay, that's nice. Oh, thank you. Thank you. A whole lot of us are excited. Thank you. So please take a moment, respond to our virtual poll. You will have it on your screen now. Okay. So we want to know, on an average, how stressed do you feel in your workplace as a journalist? You will have rarely stressed, sometimes stressed, often stressed, almost stressed. We plead with you to take a moment, answer this, to help us, to help shape this very session. We await your answer, and we'll also get results from this poll. I want to believe we are responding to this. Okay. 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 So we'll have 11 out of 23 respond to this. Yeah, okay. From what we have, 18 said rarely stressed, 36% sometimes stressed, 27% often stressed, and almost stressed will have 18%. Okay. So quickly, all right, this is duly noted. Quickly, we'll also have a second poll. This is very necessary because it's going to help shape our conversation, and we plead with you to be very honest with us in your responses. Because we also indulge you to take a moment and respond to this. It's a very important aspect of this training. Do not see it as stressful. Help ensure that these responses are gotten. Okay. So what do you hope to gain from today's workshop? One is learn practical coping strategies to understand mental health challenges in journalism. 3, connect with other journalists facing similar challenges. And the last one is all of the above. Please respond.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, we can hear you.
Sorry, I'm just joining, please. I don't know what you're talking about. What was the question?
So if you look at your screen, you will see a virtual pool, and it's a very important part of this very training. I would like you to be honest with it. I would like you to respond to it.
Sorry, it is not showing here, please.
Okay, sorry that you missed that. The poll has ended already. We already have a result. So 25% said learn practical coping strategies. Then 17% said understand the mental health challenges in journalism. And 0 said connect with other journalists facing similar challenges. It's obvious that the answer is all of the above. 58% said we want to learn practical coping strategies. We want to understand the mental health challenges in the newsroom, to connect with other journalists facing similar challenges. Okay, thank you so much for your responses. So quickly, without wasting much of our time, and I believe we all are ready for this very session. So our first facilitator, we already read down his profile, Mr. Dayo Ayeton. His session his session is on the invisible battle, emotional challenges in investigative reporting, and this session promises to be mind-blowing and exciting. The session, it will explore the emotional and psychosocial challenges journalists face, including trauma, harassment, burnout, and moral dilemmas, through the first-hand experience of a seasoned investigative journalist. We read through Mr. Dayo's profile, and he's well-grounded and a journalist, media trainer who has done a whole lot of investigative reporting. Quickly, I believe we all can hear me.
Yeah.
Can respond. Okay, thank you so much, sir. You have the floor, Mr. Ayeton. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Odina Kachi. Let me start by saying a big thank you to the Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism for bringing us together to talk about this very important topic, but that many journalists overlook. And I see that in the first poll where the question was asked, the rate at which you are stressed with your work, 36% said sometimes. I dare say that will be a much higher figure if many people actually, the problem is that many of us don't understand how stressful our work is. And we go through our career without understanding that we're actually suffering from PTSD and all kinds of mental health issues. And journalists, as usual, we are fighting for every other person but ourselves. We normalize, all the wrong things that are happening around us, and that impacts on us. Second, let me also thank Dr. Adekoya. Dr. Adekoya, thank you. I don't think we have really met, but your reputation precedes you. I think that you have also offered some help in terms of psychosocial mental health issues for some people that you might not even understand are linked to me. I have a presentation, but I've been asked to do in 30 minutes what will perhaps even take 3 hours. So I'll breeze through my presentation, but basically what I'm doing is sharing experience about my own personal experience, doing investigative work, holding powerful people to account, reading, like Motrayo said, if it's even, it is traumatic, when investigative journalists cover corruption issues and we move from governors stealing 100 million to people stealing billions, even in dollars, and so on. And in my presentation, so not to waste time, my objectives are, so a poll was, or maybe a survey was done, and some of the journalists gave feedback. So I want to look at some of the experiences that have been shared and provide from the feedbacks that were provided. I want to also, as much as possible, try and explain the psychological impact of investigative journalism. But sincerely speaking, yes, we are talking about investigative reporting, but the truth for me is that a whole lot about journalism itself is stressful. And Moturai also talked about, even your editor breathing down your neck all the time, if that is a culture in your newsroom, can actually be stressful. And finally, I also want to offer practical coping mechanisms, and peer support strategies that journalists can fall back on. The final thing I'll talk about is what Motorayo ended with. Journalists need to know that there is help. In the past, the problem was that journalists didn't know where to go for, even when they realize or their colleagues realize that they have some kind of mental health or traumatic experience. There is help for us. Thankfully, media development organizations like CGID, the Wale Soyinka Center, and a whole lot of us are working because we do understand now that our work can be stressful. So I'd like to talk about, the hidden cost of investigative journalism, and that's something many people don't address their minds to. Investigative journalists expose wrongdoing, corruption, injustice, abuse of power, and the like. And we hold very powerful people, and I mean very powerful people, to account. But in doing all this, and that is what Section 22 of the Constitution says we should do. But in doing all this, investigative journalism also exposes journalists themselves to trauma, intimidation, fear, mental health issues, isolation, and all kinds of, negative things that come to us in the line of our work. And I always say that you might think that the beat you cover is, there's nothing wrong about it, that you can't face any kind of, stressful experience and all that. But sincerely, virtually any beat, the most innocuous, harmless beat you cover, who knew that covering health could be a big risk until COVID came, or in fact, until different kinds of epidemics came, and journalists were exposed in reporting these things, And I have listed a number of the really, really nasty ones that journalists are expected to cover. In the ICIR, where I work, we send journalists to cover the most dangerous assignments, to, their bomb header farmer crisis in the Benue Plateau area. We've sent people to Zamfara, where there is kidnapping and banditry and so on. So journalists are covering terrorist attacks, kidnapping, banditry. We are investigating human rights abuses, including rape, sometimes of minors. We are investigating police brutality. I remember under COVID, one of our journalists covered, with Dorothy Demanze, who works in the area of, abuse and rape of women and so on. Our reporter, who we thought we prepared, went round Abuja to look at women who had been locked down with their abusers and to tell their stories. And this lady came back. To cut a long story short, from the traumatic experience she had to abandon journalism. She came back, she wasn't the same again. But for the kind of therapy we provided and support we provided, but she just said, look, I'm done with journalism. We're covering, conflict, violence, we're sending somebody to Maiduguri where, as at this morning, the count of dead people is 26. These journalists we are sending there will probably be going to hospitals, mortuaries, and so on. I talked about political corruption, health epidemics, corruption where people are stealing billions and you are reporting it on a daily basis. All these are, beats that if you are covering them on a regular basis, can actually have telling impact on your emotional stability, on your psychology, on your humanity. So I also say here that the psychological impact of investigative journalism is real. Ignoring it damages both the journalist and the journalism we do. So I want to briefly talk about understanding mental health risks. And I did say before, the reason why such training programs, meetings are important is because many journalists, they just breeze through their day, whatever they are reporting. We don't even have an understanding of the magnitude of mental health issues we face on a daily basis and the impact that they have on us and how to deal with them. So I want to quickly look at some of the manifestations. And the first one I want to talk about is burnout. You've covered this debilitating beat for so long that you just burn out. And that's what happened to that journalist who, that I referenced earlier, who worked with Dorothy. She had covered this issue of abuse of women who unfortunately were locked down under the COVID protocol of lockdown with the abusers. And the lady will come back weeping. She had gone to the police station where they heard stories of or met victims of 3-year-olds who were sexually abused. You know, she just burnt out. She just felt tired. What are the symptoms of a burnout? Sometimes you're just tired, chronic fatigue, you're just, everything just weighs down on you after experiencing those things. Sometimes you become cynical, nothing moves you. I imagine that for me personally, reporting corruption, there was a time, perhaps that's what happened to me. I just burnt out because we started by reporting politicians who will steal 100 million and then 1 billion. And so you have a sense of cynicism. Nothing moves you anymore about this particular thing. And that's very dangerous. Then reduce motivation. What motivation would you continue to have to do your work when you're faced with so many challenges that affect you on a personal level? Sometimes you feel emotionally drained. Why does this happen? It means sometimes you're like this lady I talked about, you have worked consistently, persistently on long investigations. Some investigations go up to a year without resolution. The pressure, I've talked about this before, even the pressure, unfortunately, newsroom managers, and I think that for us who do this kind of training, we need actually to also focus on newsroom managers, because sometimes when the journalists complain or their colleagues in the newsroom complain that something is happening to this person, it's not that the editor is insensitive. He or she just doesn't have an understanding of what is happening. Talk less of helping to deal with it. So that's why editors don't care. They just put pressure on you. Even when you're buckling under those pressures, they just continue to pile it until you break down. Threats and harassment. And I also say lack of closure on stories. That can have a debilitating effect on a journalist. When you are working on a story and unfortunately, maybe you have held some people to account, some people have escaped, and so on. Let me go back to threat and harassment. The threat, I remember when a journalist in the ICR did a story, holding somebody up there to account. Unfortunately, this guy was angling for political office in one of the southeastern states, felt offended and started threatening our journalists to the extent that he had connections in the AG's office and they would write us to threaten us. That I could handle. It was institutional. But the DSS, EFCC, the police would call our reporter, and sincerely speaking, I knew I had to sit down with this reporter to engage him and calm him down and tell him to ignore this. We will deal with it institutionally. Such harassment can really be debilitating. I also want to talk about secondary, and this is also important, but we need to address our minds to understand that this is also trauma. So secondary trauma happens when journalists absorb trauma of people they interact with, either as sources, as interviewees, or whatever. If you understand what I'm saying. So I'm saying that secondary trauma, so you are reporting, let me give examples in the Nigerian context. You've gone to the kids that were kidnapped, and there are several examples. You go to interview their parents, and you see what they have gone through, or a kidnapped person's child who has been killed, or you are reporting terrorist attacks, you're covering sexual violence, and you're speaking to survivors, or you are investigating abuse or in vulnerable communities, where women and children have been impacted. All this, you are speaking to do your reporting, you have to speak to people. And as they speak, some of them with injuries, you see this, sincerely speaking, unconsciously, you imbibe their pain. You take on their pain. And that's what secondary trauma is. You leave the place and you see that you can't sleep at night. Ibaya is saying, I just returned from a training program in Uyo. Ibaya is saying, used to work for Punch and Premium Times, and then he set up, his own, and we funded an investigation, the genocide in Southern Kaduna, and I say it with all sense of responsibility, the genocide in Southern Kaduna. And Ibanga came back messed up. Why? Because he will call me at 2 a.m. and say, and he will be crying. Ibanga must be close to 60 now, up to 60. At that time, maybe about 4 years ago, he will call me at 2 a.m. and he'll be crying, Dio. The guy will reported this person, but he has just been killed. Many people in his story were killed one after the other. It was a terribly traumatic experience that I wonder if he's ever recovered from it. What are the symptoms of, secondary trauma? Like I said, you keep thinking back, intrusive thoughts. Those thoughts, those visuals, those things you saw and heard, they just keep coming back to you and they haunt you. Sometimes you get emotionally numb. These are symptoms. If you feel them, then you know that don't keep silent about them. Do something. These are symptoms that tell you that there's something wrong somewhere. Sometimes it is undue anger. You find a calm person who just becomes angry, touchy, easily irritated. And sometimes, like I said also, sometimes you just have sleepless nights thinking about all this. And this is sometimes what leads to, the lack of closure that I talked about. Just a second. Yes, I think, yeah, let me remove my video for a while. The almighty people have struck. And go back to my presentation. Yes. So that is that about secondary trauma. And we need to understand how the trauma of people we report also come back to affect and haunt us. There is also what I call moral injury. Sometimes journalists feel guilty because they cannot help victims. So please, let me say this, and this is an aside, because it's something that has happened before. Sometimes the people we deal with, they want to exploit our situation. Please always know your boundaries as a journalist. Our duty is to report. We are doing that duty very well when we put out what has happened in the public. Our job is not to provide financial support, emotional support, and all other kinds of support for these victims, because that is what happens to journalists. And then we have this moral burden, sometimes understandable, but please, let us understand our role so that we can insulate ourselves from this kind of moral injuries. Sometimes journalists cannot help victims of crises that we report, and they feel guilty. It's not your job, please. Sometimes stories do not lead to justice. So when we do our job, for example, a story about child trafficking that we handled, and the police and NAPTIP, they bungle it, and eventually the victim does not get justice, and the journalist is killing himself for that. No, you really must understand your role and understand that you have done the best you can as a journalist. It is left to the other structures in the society, in the system, to do their own job. Sources suffer consequences, apart from the fact that they don't get justice. We see them suffer consequences. That can also be traumatizing. So, for example, the whistleblower we reported, was now victimized and arrested by the police, and when we saw that he was suffering the consequences and so on, we went beyond our journalistic remit, but we didn't take action on our own. We handed the results of our investigations to advocates, civil society organizations who took this up as tools of advocacy on their own. So we need to also protect ourselves. And I look at other stress factors for journalists. Motoraya talked about one of the biggest threats that journalists face today is legal intimidation. Legal intimidation. And that's what frivolous lawsuits, strategic lawsuits against public participation, SLAPs. When they can't get to us in any other way. The guy I talked about who had political ambition, he used the police, the DSS, EFCC, and I'm not exaggerating, including the Deputy Director of Public Prosecution, who wrote to us that we should withdraw that story. And I wrote back to him that he's a jobless person because it is not his job to be writing to the media to withdraw stories. Any aggrieved person can. So if they try all other things, they just go to court. And we are dealing with people who have all the resources. They are not going to court to seek legal redress. They are going to court to intimidate us, to shut us up, to muzzle us, and perhaps most importantly, to waste our resources, because they know that the media doesn't have the resources to hire lawyers and so on. Intimidation tactics. Police invitations is another one. And harassment by, when they invited and eventually arrested one of our reporters, Nuruddin Akeushola here, for a story that the police should have been interested. They should have given him an award because he wrote about how the police IG and other hierarchy in the police were selling police property, pauperizing the police. And they used the Cybercrime Act to intimidate him. They invited him. I went with him. And they arrested him and would not have released him but for the international outcry and all that. And after that incident, I knew that Nuruddin was traumatized because you will see him. He will come to the office. He's not a noisemaker or whatever. But I noticed he was quiet. I had to call him, sit him down for an hour, and did my own emotional, therapy for him. And, shared experiences of several people, who had gone through this experience. It's not your fault. It's not on you. It's on the system. So don't let whatever the system throws at you now stress you. You have done your bit. And of course, threats from powerful actors, especially politicians and public servants. These are all stress factors which make the work of a journalist very difficult today because they add to the stress. They add to this. Oh my God, my system is hanging. Why? They add to the stress. Hello, can anybody hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
I hear you clearly.
Thank you very much. Now my system is hanging. And I can't go to the next slide. How I wish that I had shared the slides. For some reason, my system is hanging, so I can't go to my next slide, but I will find a way around it. Okay. So I also, apart from these other stress factors, I also want about, and that's something that journalists also don't address their minds to, digital harassment. Because we are holding people to account in all manner of ways, and they are harassing us digitally, we don't know about it. And these kinds of harassment include troll attacks when people are tracking you online, coordinated smear campaigns, when they are talking. So somebody issues, it's happened to us, somebody issues a press statement attacking your story, attacking you. This is part of what we are talking about. Or doxing. Doxing is the malicious sharing of private information about you, such as maybe your phone number, your address, or some private thing that should not be in the public space. Why are they doing that? The reason why they are doing that is to put you in harm's way, to intimidate you, to embarrass you. If you know what I'm... So these are some of the tactics that people use to intimidate us. Just a second, somebody is disturbing me. Yeah, I think that's what happened. Yes, so let me just quit this. Yeah, so I've just talked about digital. So let me talk to the meat of my presentation is practical strategies for emotional resilience for investigative reporters. Strategy 1, trauma awareness, trauma-aware reporting. When covering traumatic stories, avoid overexposure to graphic material. So you're covering, let's say, bomb bomb blast and you just want to see everything, yeah, you can report it. You've seen a dead body, you counted 5, that's your job. You see that there is blood, don't dwell on it, because those are the images that come back to haunt you. Take scheduled breaks from your beat, whatever investigative or investigations you are conducting. If you feel that it's doing something to you, then take a break. Share your experiences, debrief with colleagues after difficult interviews. It's like emotional catharsis, it creates a release in you. And in sharing with them, you probably learn that they have also, and there's no big deal to what you have gone through. It's always good to share with colleagues in the office, people around you. Limit repeated visits footage. Talked about that. This is, you cannot carry emotional problems on your head. Let us learn what I call professional detachment. It might be a difficult thing to do, but understanding what your role is in covering this incident probably helps you prepare your mind, so that you can insulate yourself, block out anything that, and distance yourself from it. I think that helps. Number 2 strategy is structured, and this is terribly important, structured work-life boundaries. Investigative journalists, in fact, journalists generally often blur these boundaries. And we must encourage the following. No work calls. I know it is difficult, and some editors will kill you if you try it. We should, sorry? We should learn how to create a work-life balance. And so for me, what I do is, so I run several operations, and I can't say no. I even can't. Unfortunately, I'm saying what I am encouraging others not to, but I'll tell you the strategy I adopt. So I carry work home because I can't finish all the work from. But the minute, if I wake up on Monday morning, I'm telling you, and my system is telling me, take a break, I shut down. I call my wife, the editor, the necessary people, I shut down. Because the nature of my work dictates that I can't say, oh, this time no calls and so on. But actually, to be candid, I sometimes adopt these no calls after work hours or after certain hours. I can say from 2 to 4, or particularly on weekends. Please, if you have an understanding with your editors, at this time you want your sanity back, then I think that if they want you to be productive, they would agree with you. One day each week, completely tune off from stress-inducing work. At least once a week. I have done that for years. I would just refuse to, because my work is constantly stressful. And managing people also can be stressful, and that's where I am. You need to protect your family time. That is of utmost importance, no matter the work or the pressure of work. Time for wife or husband, time for kids, time for other members of the family. Don't let us compromise this. Time, also, very important, time off work. I don't know why some people, maybe because our beats are creative and we don't want any other person to come while we're on leave to enjoy the benefits of the beat and whatever. You are killing yourself. Do take time off work. Peer debriefing, I've talked about that. Most important, I'm sure I'm running out of time. I don't know how much time I still have. It's important. One thing I would say here is, please, it is not the job. Sometimes the person who is going through trauma understands what's happening to him. First, If you have covered any nasty story or you reported anything out of the ordinary, please, and you're feeling somehow, share your experience, your feeling with somebody in your newsroom. It doesn't have to be your boss. Let somebody know and then report it to your boss so that institutionally they can do something about it. But on the other hand, it is also the responsibility of editors and others, colleagues in the newsroom, please, when we notice something is off about somebody, either somebody who is ebullient is now very restrained, very quiet, she or he stays aloof and all that, there's something wrong. Or somebody who is pleasant, jovial, just gets cranky all the time, and you know that this person just, please escalate it to the authorities in your newsroom so that they can, or you find somebody who is isolating him or herself. Please, peer support is one of the strongest protective factors in, mental health balance in the newsroom. Coping with digital harassment, steps to take. The first step to take as an investigative journalist yourself digital, don't leave. You can't be an investigative reporter holding people to account and you are living your life on Facebook. You are endangering yourself because you provide the avenue to troll you, to dox you, and to harass you. After all, Evans, the mighty kidnapper, he told his interrogators that one of the ways he got victims were going to Facebook. So even we use Facebook and other social media platforms to investigate people. So please, do not read every abusive comment. So people make comments about your story, about me, I know now your business be that though. Me, I've done my work. So please don't dwell on what people have said about you on social media and so on. The other thing that helps is using social media moderation tools. So your phone, many social media platforms now have it. You need to know how to use that. They tell you to moderate, so you can limit your time on social on each platform, for example, to 15 to 30 minutes in a day. Of course, many of us abuse that, but it's a mechanism for us to protect our sanity. I've said this: report and let your editors handle coordinated attacks. If you find that this person, and you need to understand what is an attack. If you have done a story and the subjects of your story come online and they are doing or saying anything disparaging about you, it's an attack, or they are threatening you, or they are abusing you. Report to the editor and let them do something about it. Remember, online harassment is designed to silence you. Many of these things that they do are designed actually to do what? To silence us. Strategy 5, mental health hygiene. One of the things that, I'm sure that Dr. will talk about, exercise, discipline about your sleep, part of work balance. You will develop insomnia like many of us now have. You can save yourself. Some of us don't sleep more than 3 hours. I'm sure I'm talking at least one person here in this meeting who would agree with me. It's not the best thing. Maintain sleep discipline. If it is 9 you want to go to sleep, make sure you go to sleep at 9. One thing we should understand, I tell people at trainings, in terms of safety, mental well-being and all that, if you endanger yourself and you buy the next week, somebody has taken over your pages, and that page, the job has to continue. The job has to continue. Anything you need to do to protect yourself. One of the things that we say, recommend people, for example, me, even watching, look at the genocide in Gaza. Even watching it is traumatizing to a journalist. I stopped watching it. So sometimes you need to stay away from news as a journalist that would traumatize you. Risk management for investigative journalists. Planning your investigation reduces the anxiety and the possible fallout of negative impact of your work. Before you start investigations, of course, conduct your risk assessment. It tells you a lot that can happen, and you can create mitigating mechanisms. Inform your editors of your movement. Use secure communications. Plan for legal support if needed. And just like psychosocial support, legal support also exists. I will say that, please, I've mentioned the organizations. Many times your editors and your newsrooms either don't understand these issues, or they don't care, in quote, or they are thinking of, I will be spending money. Please, take it upon yourself. Reach out to Wole Soyinka Center, reach out to CGID, reach out to the ICIR. Talk to your friends. Who do you think can help me in this? And then finally, my last slide, I think, it is important to build peer networks. If you are an investigative reporter, you must be part of investigative journalist groups, because they have mechanisms for either training, coping mechanisms, support mechanisms, financial issues, and so on. Informal support circles. You should know about such informal support circles. Also, institutional support. The newsroom managers here also need to understand that media organizations have a responsibility to offer training, trauma training, legal protection, psychological support, editorial backing, and all that. Resilient journalists require resilient institutions. Our institutions need to step up. I don't want to mention names or whatever, but there are so many newsrooms in this country that do not do enough for their journalists in terms of supporting them. And once in a while, we find journalists from these newsrooms reaching out to us, and we offer the support we can. I think I'll stop here. Maybe if there are questions, eventually I can answer them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dyer, for that very insightful session. Thank you so much. So without wasting much of our time, we quickly invite Dr. Adekoya read through her bio, and for her session, she's going to address the practical strategies journalists can use to manage stress, resilience, protect their mental well-being while navigating the pressures of investigative journalism. A round of applause as we make welcome Dr. Adekoya. While you have the floor. Thank you. We can more for Okay. While we wait for, I think she's trying to set up her device. While we wait for her, just a few takeaway from what Mr. Ayton said during his session. Yeah, we all know that should
I'm
I think it's
my
Hello, Dr. Esther Adekoya.
hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you
Hello.
loud and clear.
Oh,
We can hear
okay.
you.
So my laptop is having issue. I can't unmute the video, the audio. So I'm using my phone as audio, and then I'll still be facilitating using my laptop. I hope that's okay. Okay, so yeah, good afternoon to everyone. And I want to appreciate God first and foremost. And then, of course, the convener of the program, and also my friend Mutsurayo Alaka. We've worked together, and the woman passionate about what she does. You know, when she was giving her opening remark, I could see the way it was so empathetic, you know. You know that this one is an woman. Thank you a lot. Wow, do I have something to say? And so the moderator, Miriam, I appreciate you, and in the house. Thank you. So every day, stand at the intersection of truth, pressure, and risks. But today, this space is not about deadline, but it's about you. So because we'll be exploring holding the line, you know, holding the truth for accountability, for your mental health, emotional resilience, ability. However, if the one on the line breaking the inside, they cannot hold it. And so at this time, before I move on, I just want you to take a breath, you know, just breathe in and slowly release. You know, so I just want you to be sure that you are presently present. No pressure here now. Okay. So I move on about the mind matters, and then the practical strategies for mental health and well-being. You know, the mind matters because it is the control center, you know, of your life. World Health Organization says, because that the organization monitoring the health of the world, that there's no health without mental health, because every other health depends upon the proper functioning of the mind. And so if the mind is not functioning properly, then nothing functions. And so that is why the mind matters. So that's why we want to talk about the practical strategies for mental health and well-being. The mind is the control center of your life. Everything you become, you create, or experience also flows through it. The mind, it shapes reality. What you constantly think becomes how you interpret life. You know, two people can face the same situation, but experience it differently. because of their mindset. So that's why your thoughts influence your emotions, and then your emotions drive your actions. Your mind also, governs your emotional health that we'll be talking about. And an unmanaged mind, an untrained mind can amplify anxiety, fear, and every other negative ill. And that is why we need to learn about cultivate peace, resilience, and clarity in what we do. Thank you. So I move on. So how are you? When the moderator was asking, like, how do you feel? I saw emotion flying, and I like, okay, that's good. But then at times when it's like sometimes when I say I'm fine, I want you to look me in the eyes and they tell me the truth. Okay, because we are on a virtual forum. Assuming it's a physical one, I would have asked you to look into your neighbor's eyes and say, how are you? And then let us see their reactions. And if they say they are fine, tell me the truth. Are you really fine? And that is it. So, okay, so we go back to holding the line, talking about mental health, emotional resilience for investigative journalists. So what are you holding the line for? You are holding the line. You are not just doing anything, but you're doing something very vital, giving voice to the voiceless. So you are holding the line for truth. You are holding the line for justice. You are holding the line for accountability. And that makes you a great journalist. A great journalist, a quintessential journalist holding the line. However, still talking about holding the line. This means, standing firm under pressure. You're standing firm under pressure so that you can pursue truth and hold the line against misinformation, against propaganda, against distortion of facts, against silence and suppression, against the pressure to compromise integrity. And so that is why you are holding the line. You're not just holding the line for nothing's sake. There's something behind it. And then you are also holding the line for corruption, misuse of power, secrecy, and cover up. So there's so many hidden things happening all around, but you uncover it. Institutional failure, and then impunity. That is, we are being deprived of the right judgment. They misuse and abuse power, and they cover it. And so that is what you are holding the line for. You are holding the line for justice against oppression, against injustice, against exploitation, against manipulation, against voices that is manipulated, and erasure of voices, because voice with the voice. However, holding the line comes with a price. But then, one thing is, you can't actually hide. You can't hide when you are crippled inside. Now, if you look at this picture, she's wearing an armor, smiling, giving smile. I've seen journalists, press, whenever they are presenting, they are always with a ready smile, attractive and all that. But we are looking behind the scene. They are going through a lot. And so I'll be unveiling some of the things, giving a graphic representation to most of the things that Dr. Dayo Ayeton, I hope I'm right, I've spoken about. Using like mental health, emotional resilience for investigative journalists, because that is what you are actually going through. You are bent down on the inside, even though you give everybody a ready smile. You know, you are being strong for so many people out there, like what my co-host, co-facilitator spoke about, you know, going out of your way, you know, to give money, give kindness and compassion and all that, while you are also beating yourself. And so that is what do you need? What is the fuel? You know, how do you fuel your tank in order to get your power back? Because so many things drain this power. Okay, so we're talking about, still looking at journalism and mental health. How do you cope with trauma, deadlines, and points out, like have already been explained to us? So we are looking, the objective of the seminar is, this section is, how do you protect your mental health, build emotional strength, while you continue to do courageous, truth-seeking journalism? How do you manage stress? How do you build resilience? And from the poll, you see that so many people say they want to learn practical, you know, strategy, coping mechanism, in order to navigate this unique work that you do. But then we have to talk about your health. So what is health in just 3 words? Healthy body, healthy mind, is happy journalist. And so if the mind is not healthy, even if the body is healthy, you can't be happy. And so that is why your health is very important. The health of your mind is very key. Okay, so let's see what the definition of WHO for health. Health is defined as a state of, is a complete physical, mental, and social well-being of an individual. It is not only about absence of disease or infirmity. That means if in case you don't have disease, or you don't have any infirmity or illness, you still met up with what is called health, as in all the composition. And so, and that's why I said the health of your mind, there's no health without mental health, except your mind is properly functioned. Because every other health, your job health, your whatever health, spiritual health, marital health, financial health, everything depends on the proper functioning of your mind. And so we also want to look at wellness. What is wellness? This is the optimal state of health of individuals or groups. Wellness is expressed as is a positive approach to living. Now, the difference between health and wellness is that health is the goal. Like health is like a bus stop you are heading to. But wellness is the active process of achieving it. That means we have to keep taking a step. And I'm so excited. So many people want to learn. What can they do? What can they learn? You know, what knowledge do they need in order to stay healthy at every time? So wellness is direct influence on the overall health, and is essential, very essential, to living a robust, happy, and fulfilled life. So well-being is a state of being healthy, happy, and comfortable, both physically and mentally. Okay, so I promised I was going to show a graphic representation of some of the things we go through. So now this is the clear picture of so many people. And even Dr. Dayo confirm it, and like, people say they are not stressed. Like, you don't understand the stress of the job. And so we are trying to look behind the scene. And I am also asking us to be true to your emotional status. How are you feeling? Is this your picture? Does this reflect who you are behind what you do? Okay, we see this, we are familiar with the deadline, this emotional responsibility. You are so tired. The editors, he said the editors are like on your throat. What? So many things. Wow. So alarming. Okay, so is this what you do behind your in front of your laptop before you do anything? Like, how do I navigate this now? You know, there was a time I was experiencing. Oh, did I appreciate Wale Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism? Oh my God, they have been doing a lot of work. And I thank God that I'm also a part of this good work they're doing. And at times I've been holding therapeutic section for some, you know. And then one person said, I'm going through thought block. I said, I can't even think. And I have deadlines to meet. And like, this is just a representation. And like, how do I get out of the thought block now? You know, and then to still meet up with the work that I'm supposed to do. Okay, so I'm not denying the truth, that it actually takes courage to pursue truth in difficult environments. And of course, because I'm also attesting to it, that journalists are witnesses to human suffering, injustice, and hidden realities. Investigative journalism had, however, required not only intellectual skill, because I believe that every journalist is very intelligent. They do a lot of mental exploit. But then emotional resilience is also very key. However, truth telling should not cost journalists their mental health. And so I am rooting for you. But a healthy outside starts from the inside. So the question is, who owns the storyteller when the story becomes too heavy, when the story becomes too burdensome, when the story becomes scary, when the story becomes too hard and too difficult? And so that is why we are here, holding the line. That means you need emotional strength, you need emotional stability, you need emotional agility. Okay, so why mental health matters? They have already, I might not stay too much on this, because my co-facilitators have actually opened all these kind of worms. Like, it's because you are exposed to traumatic stories, and so your mental health matters. Because of constant pressure and deadline, your mental health matters. Because of threats and harassment, he had given a first-hand information. That is primary research, you know, something that he had encountered. That is why your mental health matters. Also, moral burden and truth-telling. And then we have the psychological impact. He had said that I won't waste a lot of time. Common stressors, exposures to all of, you know, trauma. And let me just move on. You have done it. Okay, so also mental health effects. Now, this is the effect. It brings about emotional exhaustion. You are drained and you are burnt out. Then secondary trauma or second person trauma. And he was able to explain a lot for us about what we mean. But then there's also what we call vicarious trauma. Now, this is somebody you don't know, but you have now internalizing that pain. So the extent is that it is affecting you and you don't even know what else to do. Just like the example she gave about a woman during the COVID, and she had to interview the people that is that I think intimate person's violence, or some personal violence. That's it has to do with the violence about domestic. I'm trying to look at it's IPV. I'm trying to remember what that particular word is, and then she can't, and then he was like, I can't do this. I'm done. It's because she has internalized a lot of this pain. Then there's also something we call compassion fatigue. That is the emotional exhaustion, which is like gradual draining of your emotion or your compassion to care. You are tired of caring. You begin to detach from coping. You know, it is the cause of caring deeply for too long without replenishment. And that is compassion fatigue. And then I explained the vicarious trauma that you also go through. Someone you don't know, but because of you have a job to do, and then it was a transfer thing and brought about internal change and pain being transferred to you. So journalists often experience all of this, but rarely process their own. So the impact of a journalist job on mental health, it brings post-traumatic syndrome, stress. Okay, we have said that already. And then there's alcoholism and substance abuse. I was one of the person I was taking through therapy section. Like you see, I try to be resilient and bounce back because there's a way I'm helping myself. If I don't take that thing, I won't be able to cope. And so many people are fighting with addiction behind the scene, and that is the truth, because they just have to cope somewhere because there's a loop, and then they need to come up with how can they cope, and then some of them cope with maladaptive strategy or adaptive strategy. Okay, so if you are here, you might look at this sign: persistent fatigue, irritability or anger, you lost motivation, you find it difficult to concentrate, emotional numbness and all that. Also, we have professional sign: detachment from the story, over-identification with victim, decline in productivity, ethical fatigue. So recognizing these early signs prevent long-term mental health crisis. So take note of that. So you and your mental well-being. And that is why you have to understand emotional resilience. How do you get your power back? Now, it is the capacity to withstand that stress while you are holding on, to process difficult experiences, to recover from emotional strain, to continue working with clarity and integrity. Because it is the capacity to first absorb what is happening, process it well, and then still maintain your balance without emotional collapse that many people are going through. Many people have caved in, and many people are drowned in the because they want to hold the line. But emotional resilience is making you to bounce back in spite of all the odd. So who are you when you are not holding the line? And who are you when you are not putting on the old armor? And so we are trying to unveiling and capture your real person, because your mental health matters. So elements of resilience has to do with self-awareness. Are you aware? It is also has to do with emotional awareness. Are you emotionally intelligent? Do you validate the emotion you go through? That I'm angry. And then you are emotionally intelligent because you are angry, but you choose not to be an emotional slave, but you learn how to master your emotion. But first, you are aware. You are not denying it. You are not living in denial. So that's very key. Then emotional regulation. How do you regulate that emotion? Those are elements of resilience. It's like when we are in a house and there's a loud noise, maybe the radio or the TVs, and we say, hello, excuse me, can you please reduce the volume? And so when you are angry, when you are sad, when you are frustrated, when you are bitter and all that, emotion has a voice and it speaks, either verbally or non-verbally. But how do you control that emotion? How do you regulate it? The power is in you. You have the power to choose the mood. So that's emotional regulation. So we'll talk about support system. My co-facilitator spoke some about it. I'm still also going to talk a lot. then purpose and meaning, and then healthy coping strategies. So resilience is not toughness alone. It is healthy recovery and balance. And investigative journalism requires not only intellectual skill, but emotional skill. So let's go on. So one of this is debrief. Do you do that? Emotional debriefing. Journalists should talk through difficult assignments with trusted colleagues or counselors. And I'm so glad when he was sharing his own example that he was fighting for a colleague. I think you deserve an applaud here. This is what we need to do, standing in for someone. Yeah, so you have a shoulder, look for someone to cry. That is really good peer support. So we need to do that. You can't hide away from emotional debriefing because people want, like a problem shared is 50% solved. Okay, that's peer support. This is mutual, emotional, and professional support among colleagues. So you have to be empathetic. I say you, as in you. Yes, you are standing in for someone, and then someone will also stand for you. Are you empathetic? Do you give active listening, not just hearing, no, but active listening? Can they trust you? Can they confide in you? And then if someone open up to you, confide in you, I hope you are not judging the person and just giving the person again. There's an open wound, and then you are hurting the person. The wound that is festering, and then you are injuring the person again. Abba, please let's be calm and give the peer support that we need to do. And support, after opening up, you can ask, how can I help you? It goes a long way. You see the picture, peer support network. Also, he said something about newsroom. So newsroom is only about breaking news, but how because they are holding the line. So that room can maximize and you engage a lot of helpful things. I hope the newsroom that you have is not toxic. You have open communication, you have peer support, you have that flexibility. I hope there's no fear, no judgmental, you are not critic, and all of this pressure in that newsroom. So newsroom should create spaces where journalists can discuss emotional challenges openly without being stigmatized. Please, let's do that. Newsroom culture, building emotionally ready newsroom. In the media, that space is very important. So that is why the leadership style matters a lot in this kind of newsroom that we are talking about, communication pattern, the workload expectation, the way they respond to stress and trauma, and all of this is very important in building emotionally resilient newsroom. And also the role of newsroom and media institution, there should be trauma-aware editorial policy, mental health support programs, reasonable workload, psychological debrief section after major or difficult investigation so that they can ventilate. It's like when you are in a stuffy room and please open the door, let fresh air comes in. So they need to ventilate. And so you have to create that space and be intentional about it. Because LD journalists produce responsible journalism. Also, he said something about setting boundaries. Not every story must be carried alone. Learn to step back when necessary. You know how it works because it is very important. So let's create LD boundary. Okay, so I'm talking about emotional management skill, resilience, self-control, exercise, sleeping well, relaxation, journaling, time management, communication, and good routine. You know, Dr. Daniel was saying he hardly sleep at times because of some stories that but you have to just try to therapy. When you have you've been in the house and then full throw away the trash so that you have a sane environment and atmosphere. So that is it. Because I will hang them so that you can have restorative sleep and get your life back on track because you need to move on. Talking about self-care later. Okay, yeah, that's where that is it. So self-care is not selfish. So rest, discipline, physical act, quiet reflection or journaling is very important. The truth, every profession, whatever profession you are engaged in, it is hard, it's tough. We have to be intentional to create time to take care of ourselves. What works for you? God knows. Do something that works. Our boss, you know, at it us switch off and then stay in our office and then shut a coloring book and then take crayon and just be coloring. And like I was asking, I'm sure this person is not a child. He said, no, man, no, mommy. But she does that. It will just color, have crayon. Yeah, you know, that's what works for her. So she doesn't have to take care of herself. At times, you have to also, you know, there's a woman I was talking when I was having a therapeutic section. She said somebody wants to buy food for her, you know, just give her a treat. And then she was afraid to take it because she was thinking about home. That does my family have this kind of thing they want to give me? She was afraid and she couldn't eat. I said, Abba, come on, love yourself. Self-care, self-love, self-acceptance. Enjoy yourself at that time now so that you can get your back. You get your power back and then you are motivated to move on and to move up. You can't just be strong for everybody at every time. Take time to also be strong for yourself. Abba. So, so one thing you need to know that you can't pour from an empty cup. So take care of yourself. Look at that cup. I wanted to speak Yoruba, but I'm reverting back. So before that water drain off completely, so you have to recharge. Self-care is giving the world the best of you instead of what's left of you. So everybody will come up with your own self-care. Yes, you have to. You know, a friend called me on Monday and like, look, Esther, I need to talk to you. What is sue me? I'm tired. I can't go on. And then unfortunately, she's also a single mother. Not a single mother. She lost her husband 11 years ago. She had been at that time she was tired. And I like, okay, so you have to take time out. He said, I have to be for my family. My children are there, these are there. I like, take care of yourself. That's why I'm telling you, take care of yourself so that you can pour more. You will have more to give them. If you don't take care of this, of yourself, how will you get the strength to pour from? He said it's true. I said, take a vacation. If it is just 2 or 3 days, just go lock up yourself, sleep, switch off your phone, and then get your energy back. So every one of us, let's come up with what works for you. At times, me, I change the environment, and then I like listening to music and all that. So relax, refresh, and recharge. And then self-care. Now look at this capsule Which one works for you? Is it rest? Is it positivity? Is it space? Faith? Some people, they have faith. They have to go to church, pray to God, read the word of God and all that. Some people, restorative sleep, get help, love, hug, relaxation. For you, this care. So maybe, and then of course we can't run away from professional counseling. Seeking help to be normalized, not stigmatized. It's not a sign of weakness when you open your mouth and talk. It's a sign of strength. And then it's 50%. You are 50. The problem is 50% solved. Okay, so I don't know how many minutes I have more, but I just want to talk about. Yes.
Please, you have 2
Hello?
minutes to wrap up, ma. Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, how many minutes?
Just 2 minutes, ma. Thank you
A
so
minute.
much.
Okay, so I'll run through this. Okay, so there's something Atroscape Foundation come up with. We call it for personhood therapy for emotional health assessment and management, and that part of our heart resources, because we believe in bringing a rose for every heart, and this is for workplace niche. I don't know what to do, but let's just move on. Okay, so this is just the toolkit that we have come up with, and some of what is there is like this. This is what it takes. So you get the card. It's a personhood therapy. I might be able to talk more about it. You pick about the emotional ill you are going through, validate it, and then what do you want to achieve, and then this is how to manage, control, and overcome maybe a discouraged heart or the particular emotional ill. We have quite a lot, so we have done it. So another thing is finding meaning and purpose in the work. Journalism has powerful social impact, but purpose can strengthen resilience when journalists remember why the work matters. And then finally, holding the line together. When journalists protect okay, so let me just go through holding the line together, not just holding the line. It is not only professional, but ethical, emotional, and even societal. When you hold the line together, you know why I hold the top pole? And they were asking, okay, connecting with other journalists. It was zero. And I was like, why? We have to do this together. So everybody want to learn how it works for them, but you don't think connecting with others is a therapy in itself. Community is a therapy, coming together. And so that's why I want to end with holding the line together. It protects the roots in hostile environment. Truth becomes harder to suppress. Collective integrity is a stronger resistance to manipulate. It reduces isolation and burnout. It strengthens ethical standards. A united restroom culture promotes responsible storytelling, not just fast reporting. It enhances safety and protection. It builds public trust. Division weakens credibility. Unity reinforces it. It encourages courage and resilience. So holding the line is a noble and necessary task. But a line cannot be held by someone who is empty. Your empathy, your clarity, and your courage are your most valuable tools. To protect them, you must treat your mind and body with the same rigor and care you bring to investing. Okay, I'll leave this one out. So courage in journalism must be matched with compassion for others and for yourself. So it's all about promoting and restoring emotional wellness to all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma, for that very interesting and insightful session. Thank you so much. So we already know that self-care is very important as a journalist. We go about our day-to-day activity, the work we do as journalists. It's very important that we take care of ourselves. Okay, without wasting much of our time, we'll have to take another poll. Please, we encourage that you also respond to this. Okay, on the poll, we'll have, how confident do you now feel about recognizing early warning signs of stress or burnout? How confident do you now feel about recognizing early warning signs of stress or burnout? Very confident, somewhat confident, not very confident, not confident at all. Please take your time, respond to this, as it's really going to help us strengthen other sessions of this very training. We await your responses. Thank you. Wow, quite interesting. Very confident, we have 62%, somewhat confident, 38%. So we'll just say this session, our facilitators really tried their to learn fast. Thank you so much for that. We are trying as much as possible to ensure we don't overshoot our time. This is 12:49. Quickly, we'll go over to the question and answer section. So, but before that, we'll have some persons sending their questions in the chat box. So I will just quickly read it out. I think the first two questions are directed to Mr. Ayeton. From Ibrahim, he asked, how do we cope? How do we cope this all? So maybe he will have to explain more on what he meant by that. I think when you, Dr. Mr. Ayeton, when you were trying to explain some of the challenges journalists face during their work, or you faced and other journalists face as investigative work is related. Then the other question is, in the case of threats to life to some of us that investigate human angle stories, gave examples, rituals, killings, etc. Please, what can we do? Mr. Dayo Ayeton, you can help us with that. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. I didn't get the question from Ibrahim, so maybe if he can ask the question himself. But for threat to life, threat to life, that is a criminal offense. So it's not just you, but your institution. That kind of thing should be reported to the proper authorities. Who do you report to? Report to the police. Get your the lawyer of your or news organization involved so that they can report to the police. And part of what we insist that media houses should do for reporters who are reporting in unsafe environments or on unsafe beats, dangerous beats, is that they must provide, security and safety training for them. I remember late last year, I was a resource person at a security and safety training for journalists organized by the Wole Soyinka Center. It's one of those things that newsrooms don't, not that they don't value, but they don't do. But it's terribly important that on our own, we learn about, all that we need to do to protect ourselves, go through risk assessment protocols so that if there are risks involved in our work, then we can take mitigating actions. Finally, I say this. Many people say that I'm not being realistic. When I was a reporter, I was a very stubborn reporter. If my editor tells me to go and do an assignment where I think I'll be killed, I'll say, so I'm not going. Maybe many journalists cannot have the courage to do that. But I will not just in a disparaging manner tell my editor I can't go. I will provide very, very cogent reasons why, sir, this assignment will endanger my life. And I'll not just talk to the editor, I'll talk to the ordinary catching.
We can hear you now, sir.
Yes, I've answered that question. The one
Okay.
from Ibrahim didn't get.
Okay, maybe Ibrahim will help throw more light on what he meant by that. Okay, now it's open. You have the floor now, participants. You can ask your question, and raise your hand and unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, I saw some questions
It
earlier
seems
in the chat box. Oh, I see.
chat
In case of,
okay.
thanks for this. So you have just nailed the name.
Okay, we'll have Uche. So Uche, you can unmute and ask your
Okay.
question.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, good afternoon, sorry. Good afternoon. Thank you so much, sir. I really enjoyed this talk. It's been very helpful. I think you hit the nail on the head concerning a lot of things that we face through. I really like when you said that every bit is susceptible to mental health stresses and challenges. It's not just the investigative reporters. So that was something, that I was thinking about, because I've also encountered situations where I'm either interviewing people who have had traumatic experience in the line of their work, or like we also said, just the pressure of always delivering. For me, my question is more along the line. I mean, I know it's not an easy, you've said it, but at the same time, I don't think it's that easy of an answer. On one hand, we shouldn't be cynical, because cynicism is a sign that, you're burnt out. But at the same time, you don't want us to be too emotionally open, where we are feeling guilt for our subjects or people we encounter. But at the same time, if I'm able to feel that emotion, isn't that a sign to me that I am not cynical? I'm still a human being. Yes, breathing. And I get what you mean about, okay, it's not my job, the police, the this, the that, but we know the way our society works, and there are lots of gaps. So if I interview somebody who, is a refugee or something, internally displaced person, I am not earning much money, but I feel that pull to give that person some money, especially if they have like a kid. Like there's someone I'm currently talking to, and she has a child. I feel that pull,
Yeah, so that's where the problem is. And sincerely speaking, I have gone through this, what you're talking about. I've gotten emotionally involved. I've gotten emotionally skated. And at the end of the day, you go through that double jeopardy. That person has gone through, you have gone through. At the end of the day, what does all that achieve? So the example you gave, how do I put it? My strategy always is, can we have an understanding of the role that we're supposed to play, that we're supposed to bring, those things that are happening to the public domain so that other Nigerians know about it, so that the government, the people who should deal with it, know about it, so that civil society organizations can use the result of our investigations, of our reporting as advocacy tools. So the problem is, using the example that you gave, because we have had situations where it now becomes an entrapment. And let me tell you, you know how this works. Please, this is off record. So there's the whistleblower I talked about. This whistleblower, we wrote the story of the whistleblower. And I looked at it. This guy blew the whistle on police pay racket. And the police arrested him, victimizing him. We caught you with a gun. They took him to court and all that. Now, I went beyond exactly this entrapment. I went beyond my journalistic remit. It was still okay. I formed a group. CGID is there. Hope Behind Bars is there. The Whistleblower Protection Organization is there. What did we do? We engaged the law. We got him out of jail, out of prison. We are defending him in court. We have relocated him. All that were done by organizations that have the remit to do that. But you know what? The guy has become entitled and is asking for money to buy Salah Ram for his family and all that. I use this as an example to say that once you get entrapped in that emotional involvement or blackmail, it's endless. It's not our responsibility as journalists. So the way to handle it, I'm being down to earth with you because I say that I have gone through this. The way to handle it is at the back of your mind, understand that my role is this. Beyond that, I am not the refugee. You might think that I'm being insensitive or uncaring or whatever, but I understand my role. And I know that because you are also going to put a lot of pressure and burden on yourself. If you are doing that with every refugee story you do, you are going to go broke. So let's get realistic here. And it is not our role to solve society's problem. Our role is to be journalists, to report, please. So the way to handle it is, one, understand what our role is and create some kind of distance and detachment from the people we are talking to. Yes, you can empathize. What I say, you can't go and speak to somebody who has gone through emotional stress or trauma, somebody whose child has been kidnapped, and you now put a mic on, Madam, sorry, so how does it feel? You understand? Even doing that, empathizing, you have done your bit. And then reporting it is actually also helping to deal with the issue. So rather than provide the money, telling their stories is a better way of helping them in the long run. Thank you. I hope I answered that question.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. We'll have someone else, please. It will be very vital that you just go straight to the point. This is already 101. We don't want to keep you here till 1:30. I know most of us have questions, but let's just go straight to the point. Hit the nail on its head and yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much to all our facilitators. Thank you for the educating and enlightening session so far. In line with the question that you just answered, sir, I have something in that perspective as well, and I want to know if it will be right to do so. We are talking about the emotional intelligence and maintaining maintaining ethical reporting. Now, I want to ask if, for instance, one wants to report a story, an investigative story, maybe of corruption, for instance, and one discovered that the said victim or the person that one wants to write the story about, when one find out, did it, although the act of maybe changing figures or anything related to that might is we know, as we know, it is an act of corruption and it is labeled bad. However, when one wants to report such a story, one discover that such a person did it on the basis of changing his or her status, and there are justification. I mean, tenable justification for doing. I'm not saying that we are justifying such an act. So I want to ask, when one discover that, and that when one reports such a story may actually jeopardize the person's image, number one, and then the person might lose his or her job as a result. So can one go ahead to report such a story, considering the fact that such a person might actually be put on the life, like such a person's image or whatever might actually be on the line, and being a human being first, would it be ethically just to report such a story? I hope you get my point, sir.
Okay, so my internet was fluctuating when you started speaking, but if I get the drift of your concern is that the people we hold to account face some kind of backlash, they suffer their image and so on. So as a journalist, as a human, we are human beings first and foremost. Why should we expose somebody's corruption? That's the
Yes, sir.
okay. So what? And the reason I laugh is that so that question actually questions the very fundamentals of the very fundamentals of investigative journalism. Section 22 of the Constitution mandates the media to hold government accountable on behalf of the people. And so the man, the billion naira, and has a whole lot of stress to get the data, interpret the data, speaking with sources, bringing out documents to prove, oh, this man has a wife and he has children. What will happen to them? Oh, so, like I said, what is our role? That our role is to tell the truth. So emotional consideration and what? Look, let me tell you, the reason for virtually every single reason in Nigeria, including the terrorism that we are experiencing, banditry and so on, you can invariably link them to corruption. And when we want to hold people to account, the most important thing is to tell the truth. I'm not interested in, oh, if we expose corruption and the court allows them to go, that's another matter. After all, more than any journalist in Nigeria, I wrote about the corruption of Joshua Dariye and Jolly Yame. They went through, EFCC prosecuted them, they went through the court, and what happened? Late President Muhammadu Buhari pardoned them for political reasons. So I'm saying, let us as journalists do our job without any sentiments, as long as we have done it by the books, according to the ethics. So what are the ethics? Is it accurate? Is it true? Is it balanced and so on? Those should be our considerations. So not emotional, that, oh, this man is an Igbo man, I'm an Igbo man. Those are not what journalism teaches also. So I think that understanding our role and how we can play that role ethically is the most important thing, not any other consideration about emotions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Okay.
I think, okay. Dr. Esther, you can.
Yes, I just want to add my voice to what my co-facilitator just said. You know, while I was talking earlier, I like when you are holding the line, if you are holding the line to stand firm, whatever pressure, you are pursuing truth, and then you are holding the line against misinformation, against the pressure to compromise integrity. You are holding the line like against distortion of facts or silence and suppression. And so what he has said, I'm seconding it, because that is what your work is all about. So you must stand for the truth. Hold the line for truth, hold the line for accountability, and hold the line for justice. At times when you are holding the line for truth, it may look as if you are doing wrong, but please stand for the right. Yes, stand for the truth. And you'll be happy you have done that, because many people will learn from it. So integrity matters. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma, for the wonderful contribution. We've come to the, I believe we don't have any question again. Yeah. Okay, we've come to the very conclusion of this very important.
Sorry, just to say that I've shared my presentation with Miriam, and number two, and Dr. Adekoya. So I'm Mr. Dayaito and not Doctor. I don't have that privilege yet. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. This is purely nothing. Thank you. So we've come to the end of this very important session. Not to waste much of our time, just few takeaway from our facilitators during the conversation. Okay, quickly check the chat box. We'll have a post-survey form. We'll plead with you to help us respond to it. It's really going to help us in further conversations, further sessions, to know where we need to tighten up, where we need improvement. Please, you will see that in the chat box now. So a few takeaways. As journalists, we know how important our work is, the magnitude of our work, the traumas that comes with investigative reporting, the burnout. Mr. Ayetan, he was very clear about it. He emphasized deeply on it that please do not wait. Seek help. Seek help. So if you do not seek help, it's really going to be very difficult for you to hold power to account. The truth of the whole matter is you are not going to function properly. So seek help. Also, he mentioned you need to learn to create work-life balance. Another very important takeaway is sleep. Sleep on its own is a therapy. As an investigative reporter, please do not joke with that. Do not joke with it. And also from Dr. Adekoya, she mentioned exercising regularly. That is important to ensure that your mental health, your well-being is at stake. She went further to explain the practical strategies for mental well-being. It's important to know that not all stories to be pursued. Sometimes you just have to go back and also have to just go back and help yourself. So if you check the chat box now, you will see solving the SCIJ mental health post-training solver. It's important to open the link and do the needful. Thank you so much. For us at WSAIJ, we remain committed to helping journalists. We've done a whole lot of trainings and we are not relenting in continuing with that. We believe that mental well-being of journalists is very essential. To all, I would like to sincerely appreciate our facilitators, Mr. Dayo Ayeton, Dr. Esther Adekoya, for sharing your insights, very deep insight, guiding us through to this conversation. We sincerely appreciate that. To all our participants, thank you for your openness, your engagement, and your commitment to both the work you do and your well-being. We hope you leave this session not just with new knowledge, but with practical tools and renewed sense of awareness as you continue to do the important work you do as investigative journalists. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you all the best. Please, before we drop off, can we quickly turn on our camera for a picture, please? Okay, please, the form, we can hear you, Ma.
Okay, to say the last word. Yeah, what I would say is that holding the line together, it's not just about reporting the truth, but it's about protecting the people who carry the truth. And so please don't forget some of the takeaway, daily check-in, with your colleagues, peer debrief section after tough assignment is very important. Safe space for emotional expression is very key. Don't die on the inside. Open up. Is a sign of strength. And then also body system with the team for team support and encouraging rest and creating boundary. So you say your community as the therapy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ma, for that. Please kindly fill the form. From our end, the responses are quite low. Please help us share the form again so we can fill it up. Okay, so we'll have the link now in the chat box. Please kindly fill the link. Your responses really matter. Okay, we'll share the link again. Okay. Hi, Patience. We've just shared the link again. Please kindly fill the link. Okay, thank you so much. We'll quickly take picture. No. Oh, have someone. Dr. Esther.
Okay. Yes, sorry. I wanted to add, there's a particular slide that I rushed through, and that is the mind health journey. Is a 30 days mind health journey, which I can share with anyone who is interested, so that you can go through the mind health therapy journey.
Okay.
Thank you. So that's
No
for
problem,
only
ma'am.
for those.
Can share that with us. We thereafter share that with participants. Where Thank you so much. We've come to the end of this session. Thank you, everyone, and do enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.